My parents were both born in Dominican Republic, and they were both doctors. I'm one of 5 kids. My older brother and older sister were born in Dominican Republic, and I was the first one born in Chicago, in Rogers Park, Chicago. And my brother and sister followed, Mike Boone, who I've been working with for 20-something years now.
So we spent a lot of time playing computer games. We had the old consoles. We had a Bally Astrocade.
The Bally Astrocade was a video game system that had a cartridge that was basic programming.
And you have the little plastic overlay you put over the keyboard, and you could type in basic programs, and we would write little games.
And that was my first exposure to what a computer program is, the idea of creating something digitally by yourself, moving a pixel on the screen and whatnot. It just kind of taps into your brain of, oh, I have control over this, and that's probably where I really got hooked on the idea of being able to control things on a TV. All of my friends already had jobs waiting for them getting out of school, and I didn't. I made one resume my entire life. I had one resume, and at the very bottom I had a little asterisk that said, strong interest in video games. I got a call from a headhunter saying, are you interested in working at Williams Electronics? And at the time I knew exactly what Williams Electronics was. They were Defender, Stargate, Robotron, Joust, Sinistar, Moon Patrol. There was 100 games that I was aware of that they worked on. I knew the people.
Those were exciting days of meeting your idols. Oh, there's Eugene Jarvis, there's Sal DeVita, Mark Trammell, Warren Davis. You're working alongside people that created the games that you grew up with.
I went there thinking that I was interviewing for a programmer's job, a video game programmer's job. And they were like, no, this is for pinball. Are you still interested? And I said, yeah, absolutely. And there was a part of my brain behind me that was like, eventually I'd like to get into video games, but it sounds like a fun job nonetheless. My first pinball machine was a game called Millionaire. That was kind of like how I got my foot in the door. I was just learning how to, turn on lamps and flash bulbs and do special effects and whatnot. Eugene Jarvis was working down the hall from me on a game called F-14 Tomcat. He was working on a pinball machine, and Eugene asked me if I could do, special effects for that game. It had some really cool light effects, and so everybody started asking me to do special effects for their games. I became the special effects guy.
I met Ed Boon the day he arrived at Williams. He was a really nice guy, young and naive, and smart as hell, and we had a great time working on Black Knight with Larry Tomorrow.
Eugene had gone full-time into working on NARC. And again, this wasn't just a video game. This was a whole operating system and hardware. He eventually gave me a hardware system in my office while I was programming pinballs, and then on the side I would just be like making packets of dollar signs exploding that they were using in NARC when you would drop money and whatnot. And so I was just messing around with that and was really getting excited about the notion of working on video games. And at some point there was an understanding that when I was done with Black Knight, I would join the video game department to work on high-impact football with Eugene in about 1990, I would guess.
The ashes of the video crash were still smoking a little bit. The whole industry, both console and arcade and everything, we'd been rehashing the same simple, character-based games. And as far as character art, at this era, the Japanese were really dominating things. And they had just amazing artists, and we really didn't have that resource in the U.S. And so it was, how do we compete? I was like thinking, well, why does everything have to be some kind of fantasy or, men in tights or little cute characters running around the screen? Why can't we get Dirty Harry for the arcade? You know, it's like, and by doing live action, we don't need all these animators. Technology was moving and digitization was starting to happen. So NARC was kind of born out of that.
We were envisioning what is the next step? The idea of doing digitized imagery. Well, one thing is it would require more than 16 colors. The next step in our hardware design, we knew back in like 86, maybe 87, was going to be 256 colors.
Pixel art is great, but Warren's tools made it possible for us to capture video and then edit that video in a way where we could select the frames very easily.
Eugene wrote the operating system. I wrote the display system.
It was very early, and there was only a few boards that would do this, and they were very, touchy, and there was no tools, there was no Photoshop, there was no Maya. So Warren was really instrumental in creating that pipeline.
We couldn't grab real time off of a videotape, but we could videotape whatever we wanted and then still frame and grab individual frames. We've got the actual image, which is thousands of colors that an Amiga can generate. But then how do we turn that into 256? So I started exploring these algorithms to quantize or reduce colors from thousands to the best palette of 256 colors.
And there was always big problems with noise and getting washed out images, and the color was crappy, and
there's all sorts of tear and jitter and blur because VHS is terrible quality. But that's what we had at the start.
Yeah. The development of the studio and the techniques that we utilized came from those guys. Folks like Warren Davis or Mark Lafredo. These are the guys working on the hardware and the software that we worked on. It's like, if you think about me at the time, I was like, 20, 21 years old. And so I was literally just inheriting all this work that had been done before me. And I mean, I think we all like to talk and fantasize about this garage development mentality and stuff, but really there were tools and things that were happening behind the scenes that we benefited from.
Again, Eugene Jarvis with like his just kind of overall direction and focus. A guy named Todd Allen who literally wrote a debugger. To this day, I'm just amazed at everything that he's done. And Warren, he made it possible. Like if Warren didn't do what he did, I don't know if we would have been able to have done Mortal Kombat.
And Warren was always around, so that whenever we wanted anything else, a request came up, we just went over his office and talked to him, and he'd be like, yeah, okay, give me a day, I'll have that for tomorrow. And it's like, tomorrow, okay, great.
Besides being an amazing programmer and creating Kubert and working alongside of him and just being like friends with this idol of yours was just really overwhelming. He's one of my favorite people in the world.
I don't go around talking to people about what I did for Mortal Kombat. I don't talk about what I did in general. I have to say there's a lot of people in my life, they didn't know about Kubert until they've known me for like 5 or more years. And then they would be like, wait a minute, you made Kubert? So I'm like, well, it never came up in conversation. I just don't, I don't dwell on it. Although I do have to say I am very proud of my contribution to Mortal Kombat. A lot of people talk about digitized graphics, but it's like they just existed. It's like they just came out of nowhere. No, people don't think that they came from somebody or from somewhere.